Three truths about Mohg's litany of blood. First, no accident. Second, Erdtree's light recoils from his touch. Third, his curse was a blade he forged. Blood stains sacred tree roots. A trembles not with fear ritual to unmake his claim on the Erdtree's legacy. He did not fall leapt father's throne. Demigod's eyes smolder, twin coals fed by every prayer. What if the litany's verses were poison? A self-unmaking to claim the role no god could bear, executioner of the divine. Erdtree's glow dims where his shadow falls. No accident but a key. Second, he did not fall leapt. Each verse a chisel, carving his name into the tree's foundation as its executioner. The litany's words were not spoken to curse him, but to confirm his role, a mortal made unworthy, yet powerful enough to sever the divine. The Erdtree's light fades where his shadow falls. What price did he pay to become its executioner? The answer lies in the blood still whispering through its roots. Beneath Mohgwyn's crimson spires, a child's wail split silence. Blood seeped through his first breath, a sigil of rejection etched in Erdtree's gaze. Mother of Truth's cult hymns twisted into whispers he was never meant to inherit. Mohg's hands, cradled in shadow, traced the litany not as fate's prisoner but its architect. Each verse carved a chasm between his pulse and the Erdtree, a deliberate severance. Mother's prayers became a mirror reflecting a god already dead, his essence siphoned into a ritual that made him unworthy. No curse, no mistake, only a son who understood the tree's hunger. To wield its power was to become its mouthpiece, to reject it was to claim a sharper blade. Erdtree's roots, gnarled with 1,000 sacrifices, did not choose him, they feared him. He grew a specter in a palace of ash, his blood a key turned backward in the lock. Mother's cult fed him lies of destiny, but Mohg's truth lay in the gaps between their verses. The only throne he could claim was the one built on Erdtree's ruins. And so he became what the tree could not unmake, a weapon forged in its fire, cursed to break the chains he swore to serve. Litany of blood was no prison. It was the first strike in a war where the victor bleeds the cosmos dry. He took her, Miquella, radiant and unbound, was dragged from celestial halls to Mohg's shadowed altar. A consort's abduction, a king's gambit. The litany of blood was inked in his own veins, a covenant written to reject the covenant. Ritualistic sacrifice. Mohg offered no lambently a blade to his own throat, a hymn that warped divine law. To inherit the Erdtree, one must bleed for it. Mohg bled asterisk until he could not asterisk. His sacrifice was a snare, a body too fractured, a soul too stained to claim the golden throne. The Erdtree's light recoiled, its branches withered where his hands touched, no accident. No curse, a self-fashioned executioner, Mohg stood at the altar's edge, Miquella's stolen radiance a shackle and a weapon. He would not rule the tree, he would asterisk prune asterisk it. The ritual's true verse was etched in his defiance. To wield the Erdtree's power, you must first be its mourner. Mohg became the mourner, the hollow vessel, the knife the gods could not stop. What did the stars see as he rose? A king who traded ascension for annihilation. A liturgy that made him unfit to inherit, yet perfect to destroy. Miquella's absence was his crown, the tree's decay his dominion. When the gods bled, who would collect the debt? Mohg's laughter echoed in the rot, the executioner's noose was his own design. And as the Erdtree's roots blackened, one truth festered, the Omen son did not seek to die. He sought to asterisk witness asterisk, to stand at the altar not as king but as the reaper of kings. The tree's light dims, Mohg's shadow grows. Who now dares call his litany a curse? The kiln's air thickens. Mohg's voice carves the litany of blood into the stone, each syllable a chisel strike. The runes glow not with promise, but with warning crimson veins pulsing like a wound. He knows, he always knew. The Erdtree's light recoils, its golden tendrils retreating from his shadow. Asterisk the tree that cannot bear fruit. Asterisk the phrase is no accident, it is the key. To bear fruit is to sustain, to nourish. Mohg's body, marked by the litany, becomes a withering husk, a paradox of power. The Erdtree cannot feed from him, cannot corrupt him, cannot claim him. He is both host and poison. The kiln's flames hiss, his blood darkens, heavy with the weight of oaths unkept. The other Omen sons watched, silent, as he chose this. They saw the curse. He saw the design. To inherit the tree is to be consumed by it. To reject it is to be cast out. But Mohg's hunger is not for kingship, it is for annihilation. The litany's true verse, buried in the oldest tongues, whispers of a tree that unmakes fruit. His branches will not grow, they will fell. The Erdtree's light dims further, its will fractured. A new shadow stretches across the lands between. No divine hand guides this. No celestial judge weeps. Mohg's choice is a blade turned inward, a sacrifice written in blood magic's backward script. He becomes the tree's executioner not by force but by flaw. The curse is the cure. The rejection is the ascension. The kiln's ceiling cracks, starlight bleeding through as the Erdtree's roots tremble. What blooms in its place? What withers? Mohg's grin is a scar split open. He did not curse himself. He unmade himself. The tree's light falters. Mohg's shadow swallows the altar. The litany's final verse hums in the dark, a hymn not of loss but of liberation. The Erdtree's successor is not chosen, it is unmade and in the void Mohg stands not as king but as the reaper of kings. The tree's light dims, Mohg's shadow grows. Who now dares call his litany a curse? But to grasp what came next, you must see the price he paid. Mohg's litany was no curse, it was a pact to unmake himself, each verse a wound, each stanza a surrender. He burned his claim to divinity, forging the knife that would sever the Erdtree's line. A king who became the grave, a god who became the ghost. What inheritance remains when the heir is already dead? The litany of blood did not break Mohg, it broke the sky. Miquella's light dimmed first, a flicker in the constellation, a tremor in the divine song. His sister's breath grew thick with rust, her veins threading black as the Erdtree's roots choked on rot. Did he feel it, the Omen's son, as his own prayers became a noose? The lands between shuddered, mountains cracked like splintered bone. The ring's shards, once anchors of order, became shrapnel in a collapsing world. Mohg's cultists swore they saw him weep. Not for the dead, but for the weight of their deaths. Their hymns turned to wails as the litany's price settled in their marrow eternal service to a god who had already buried himself. Miquella's name was the first to vanish from their lips. Her kingdom, once a hymn of light, became a hollow shell, its people whispering curses in the dark. The Erdtree withered, not from neglect, but from rejection. Mohg's blood was the blade that severed the line of succession, not by force, but by design. He made himself unworthy, so none could claim the throne. A king who became the grave, a god who became the ghost. What inheritance remains when the heir is already dead? The answer lies in the scars of the lands between. In the silent prayers of a fallen sister, in the unbroken chain of those who serve a shadow, the litany of blood was no curse, it was a will. And wills do not beg, they take, they break, they endure. The Erdtree's light had dimmed to a sickly amber. Its roots, once pulsing with the first flame's rhythm, now trembled like a dying beast's breath. Mohg stood at its heart, his armor cracked with congealed blood, the litany of blood etched into his skin in jagged crimson script. The Erdtree's radiance recoiled from him, as if the very concept of divinity feared its own undoing. His blade, a shard of the first flame's fractured core, clashed against the tree's spectral tendrils. Each strike sent ripples of decay through the bark. This was no battle for survival. This was a ritual. The blood on his hands was not a wound, it was a key. The air reeked of iron and ozone. The Erdtree's light fractured into prismatic shards, each one a memory of the gods who had perished to sustain it. Mohg's own form began to splinter. His eyes, once twin suns, now burned with a hollow violet. The litany of blood did not curse him. It unmade him. With every syllable chanted, his flesh shed its divine sheen, revealing the gnarled, root-like veins beneath. The Erdtree screamed as its executioner bled it dry. The first flame's fading had always been a slow rot. Mohg's litany accelerated it. His blood, a poison to the tree's sacred sap, seeped into the soil, turning the golden roots to ash. The Erdtree's power was not his to inherit, it was his to eradicate. The gods who had bound their wills to this tree had forgotten its true nature, a parasite feeding on the life of the first flame. Mohg's transformation was the parasite's reckoning. His final strike split the tree's core. Light erupted, not the warm glow of creation, but a cold, searing void. Mohg's body shattered, reforming as something neither god nor beast. A hollow shell, yes, but one crowned with purpose. The Erdtree's executioner did not die. He became the wound in the world, a living hymn to what the litany had promised. Divinity is not lost. It is unmade, and in its place a new order bleeds. The litany's last verse lingers in the wind, a hymn not of suffering, but of will. Mohg's hollow form stands eternal, a sentinel of the void, the Erdtree's roots wither. The first flame's embers fade, and in the silence one truth remains: the curse was never the blood, it was the choice to let it flow. Mohg's great rune lies still, its sigils, once alight with stolen radiance, now mirror the Erdtree's hollowed branches. The litany of blood hums low, a dirge, not a hymn. He carved his own rejection into the divine script, ensuring the golden law would spurn his claim. No accident, no divine snub, a self-fraught execution. The Erdtree's embers burn colder where his runes touch stone. Mohgwyn's halls, those gilded tombs of forgotten kings, stand as a ghostly counterpoint. His father's legacy was a foundation, Mohg made it a pyre. The litany's verses, etched in his own vitals, turned inheritance into indictment, a prince who became his realm's executioner. The Erdtree's silence is no mercy, it is a verdict. What remains is a god unmade, his curse a crown of thorns. The rune's dormancy is not defeat. It is the final stanza of his design. The Erdtree's light will not pass through him, never again, only echoes, only this, the weight of a choice that drowned a dynasty. When it not pass through him wind, only blood, this choice that drowned a whisper's dynasty, no requiem. The litany of blood was no accident. Mohg wrote it to burn his own name from the tree's memory. While Marika shattered the ring in grief over Godwyn's corpse, Mohg understood, divinity is not inherited, it is erased. He let the ritual carve him hollow, a vessel without a throne. His sacrifice was not a flaw, it was the blade. Marika's sorrow fractured the order she sought to preserve. Mohg's silence perfected it. Where she wept, he calculated. Where she reached for legacy, he carved a dead end. The Erdtree does not reject, it consumes. And Mohg, the Omen son, became its most willing maw. What does a god become when their purpose is to expire? Marika's children fought to mend her broken will. Mohg's children inherited a truth colder. The cycle is not a tragedy. It is a design. The litany of blood was the first strike against the tree's endless hunger, a suicide note, a blueprint. The wind carries no requiem. It carries the weight of a choice that outlived a dynasty. A choice to let the tree feed on ambition, on blood, on the quiet surrender of a god who knew he was never meant to rule, only to fall. In the shadow of that surrender, Mohg wrote his own obituary. Litany of blood was no accident, each verse a blade turned inward, a hymn that made him incompatible with Erdtree's divine code. He knew the tree would reject him, not as punishment, but as promise. A god who spoke of consorts and war could not sit on a throne of eternal stasis. Bloodstained pages were his key and cage. Erdtree's hunger is not choice, but arithmetic. It devours what it can sustain. Mohg's liturgy flooded its circuits with chaos, a virus disguised as devotion. He became the tree's antithesis, its necessary shadow. And so the Omen son walked forward, not as heir, but as harbinger of the reckoning the tree could not avoid. His final vow, "I will make you my consort, Lord, or I will drown the world in blood," was not a threat. It was an epitaph. A god who burns cannot be contained. Erdtree's light needed a void to contrast. Mohg gave it one, his name now etched not in leaves but in the silence between heartbeats. The requiem plays on. The blood has not yet touched the roots. The blood has not yet touched the roots. Mohg's litany did not curse him, it carved a path to the tree's execution, each verse a blade, severing his claim to divine right. Marika's shattered ring, sacrificed to Godwyn's sin or hers. Did Mohg write his own rejection, knowing the Erdtree's throne could never tolerate blood without a master? The roots tremble.